Good morning, everyone, or afternoon, according to where you are in the world. It's Louisa Tanner-Munson from Feel Good Astrology, and I'm joined once again by the wonderful. I'm just trying to think of loads of different words because as I think about what I think about you, Rick, I realise so much is conjured up, and maybe that is from a place of love as well, because that is our theme today. But anyway, I'm joined by Rick Pursell, who is in beautiful Bali. And we've got a fantastic connection today, haven't we, Rick?
So far, so good.
So our theme is what is love? So what I'm expecting to come out of this is maybe an exploration of what love feels like, what it looks like, sounds like, maybe different types of love or things that masquerade as love that maybe aren't love, as we kind of throw ourselves in. As ever, we've got the chat room open. So if anybody wants to, if anyone listens in and wants to pop in a question, they can do, or an experience, we'd love to, this to be a real sort of sharing exercise. So where should we start, Rick?
Once upon a time, no, that's an old story. First things first, let's start with me acknowledging you, your presence, your generosity, and your beautiful podcast and all the work that you're doing. It's much needed, and I know it comes from a place of love. So the world needs more love at this stage. We've had enough. We've had enough fear, and in my estimation, the opposite of love is fear. People would say, "Oh, it's hate," but what drives hate is fear.
Yeah.
A fear of losing control, a fear of losing power. So people want to get one-upmanship on somebody, so they hate them. It's a sign of separation, isn't it?
Yeah. It really is.
So fear is the driver of that separation. So that gives us a really good starting point. Is what is love? Well, love is not fear.
Yeah.
It's being fearless. It's being courageous and brave. Let's face it, when we've stepped into love, we've had to be brave and courageous, not knowing what the outcome would be, especially as a young teenager delving into our sexuality, our relationships, and dating and all of that. But then as we progress through life, we've inevitably had love taken away from us, or we've had to walk away from it.
Yeah.
And that
all of the above.
Yes, me too. And that can be what's termed heartbreaking.
Yeah.
But I think the good news is the heart never breaks. I think it's a resilient organ and energetic center that, as in nature, renews and regenerates itself. And at the end of that exercise, it's saying, "Give me more. Come on, bring it on." Is that all the best you can do? The mind gets broken. I don't think the heart does. I think
put out there, isn't it? That's the heart.
Yeah.
Because I have felt brokenhearted. I just wanted to share that one of our listeners today, Sylv Casa Bergmeister, is saying the absence of love is fear. Or she's got a question mark at the end. The absence of love is fear. I agree. It is fear. And I think it is good to also kind of question that, or to have it hanging in the air, because a lot of people do live in, a bit of a fear state. Rick, I almost lost you there. It looked like you were nodding off, but I think with camera just caught you with your eyes shut for a second, looking very beatific. It was very nice.
If I go like this and I close my eyes, I've gone to sleep.
Okay. All right. So yeah, that could be our first definition then. The absence of love is fear.
Well, I'm not sure if it's the absence of love, although it is certainly on the right track. But let's say it's the opposite of love. Right. And if there is no love present, then obviously there's going to be more of the opposite. So it is, both of those are correct. But I like to define love. The opposite of love is fear, and the opposite of fear is love.
Yeah.
If I've got that right.
What I notice is love listens. Love has got time. It's very patient. As as a sort of like description of characteristics. If you're being loving, you create space for the other person to the person that you're interacting with, be it nature or a person or a pet or the magnificence of life, you listen to it because you're intrigued by it. You want to feel the connection. And my experience of fear is it shuts down the ears. Like the ears go, oh, can't listen to that. Might make it worse. Stay away. And all these barriers come up all over our body in different places. And
Yes.
we are cut down from things or cut off.
Yes. We're certainly in conflict wherever there is a conflict, and conflict is two energies or intentions pushing up against each other.
Yeah.
Where there's conflict, the ego likes to step in, and the ego is driven by fear. So the ego wants to make ourselves right and the other person wrong. So it wouldn't matter what they said, even if it was making perfect sense, we would have to tear that down in order to make our perspective, our viewpoint right.
Yeah.
And that's where it gets into this endless cycle of violence, as in Palestine and Israel, is that it's never ending. Somebody has to stop and just take stock of what's going on and be prepared to relinquish the fear and relinquish the ego, so that the love can blossom to the fore.
Yeah. Yes. Like in examples like that, where there appears to be this perpetual fear that goes around and around in circles, where people are justifying it. Because I mean, that's the thing that I'm hearing, is that when we're in a fear state, we can justify things. We look for evidence to justify our belief systems, to tell us that we're right. And when we're going around in those circles, it's very, very difficult to get out of them. Though lots of people do. And yes. I wonder if that's that you just get to a point where there is no joy at all, and something inside the soul or the body or whatever, something inside says, oh my goodness, it's more painful to be like this than it is to accept that maybe I was wrong or made a mistake.
Yeah.
It's a dark night of the soul. You have to get it really, really, really so bad that you are pretty much dying or killing yourself, that this like little spark comes up inside you. Where does that come from? I mean, you must have experienced that or seen that with the people that you coach.
Yeah, I think it comes from the heart or the soul, and these are almost interchangeable. I think the heart is the portal to the infinite, to the soul, to the higher self, whatever label we want to put on it. It is through the heart that we get to experience thing called love. And what you were describing there, I visualize it as a dwindling spiral, big circles coming down into a vortex, if you will, a bit like the water going down the drain.
Yeah.
And we are going down there in this painful route, which is being fueled by fear. And we get to a point somewhere on this scale, and we say, enough, I've done on this. And that very point is what I term need of change. If you haven't got there, you will not give up your alcohol or your alcoholism. If you haven't got there, you won't give up your drugs. If you haven't got there, you won't give up your addiction to pain and everything else, right? But if we've got to that point, need of change, now we're going to reach out and do something different. And it's, Einstein says insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, hoping for a different result. We do that. We go into another relationship. It fails. We go into another one. But we're perpetuating the same conditioned reactions, not responses. The heart responds. The ego reacts with fear and separateness, superiority, and so on. So once we've got to that point of need of change, and that could be anywhere on that spiral, right? It could be the guy that starts off with a wonderful family, house, car, great job, great position in a company, just starts under stress, starts drinking. And then on Friday, he goes to the pub with the team, and they have a drink, and he gets a little bit later every night, and then Wednesday night, and before you know, he's just absorbed in the escapism of alcohol.
Mm.
And consequently, his performance at work starts to degrade. He loses his job. The family gets all upset because there's the chance that there's a tow truck out the front taking the car away. The house will be next, and the whole beauty of this family has been disintegrated by his running away from the problem.
Mm.
And maybe one day, and I saw this a lot in San Francisco, he's in the gutter, filthy clothes, with a filthy, dirty polystyrene cup, asking for a few coins so he can go and get a bottle of hooch. That's right down the bottom.
Yeah.
If we're smart, if we see the behavioral pattern, we will stop ourselves at need of change very high up the rung. And that's going to take some conscious awareness to get to that. Or we will go through this process a few times in order to learn the lessons.
Yeah.
Right? And I think we've attracted them, as much as that sounds a bit bizarre. I do think we attract these lessons. You've got, in order to reach a new plateau of understanding and being able to truly love unconditionally, we have to experience what the opposite is like.
Yeah.
So we'll go into some relationships that are doomed right from the beginning, or we'll go into good relationships and they're wonderful, and then something happens that we're done on it, or the other person's achieved their lessons, and then we move away, hopefully in a very good amicable condition and friendship. So, and one of your questions was the kind of love. Obviously, with our intimate partner, the love that we express is very different from that with our children, our dog, our car, our work, our art, or whatever. And the sneaky cyber gremlins just tried to stop us then.
Yeah.
I'm back.
Oh, I see you.
So there are different versions of love.
Mm.
But in a lot of ways, that's not really love.
Mm.
Right? When I talk about love, and we see very few examples of it on this planet, I'm talking about unconditional love.
Mm.
I'm talking about love without conditions, not the soppy, romanticized Hollywood love, or the love of, well, I'll love you if you promise, which if you have your wedding in a church, you solemnly promise, make all these promises to each other, and how easily they're broken.
Mm.
So there's a unconditional love and conditional love, and we see a lot of the latter.
Yeah.
So
most of us are raised on conditional love, aren't we? If you think about it, most of us are raised on conditional love, with parents feeling like they're giving unconditionally, but most probably not. I mean, I wonder, this is my question to you actually, Rick. Is it possible to be human and to love unconditionally?
I do believe it is. I do believe it is. However, it's going to take a lot of conscious awareness to be able to do that. And it's going to take quite a bit of work dissembling the conditioned reactions, the programming that we've learned as children, divesting ourselves of, well, this is how my parents express their love to each other, or this is how this man is expressing his love to his wife. He just keeps buying her stuff, right? He's not able to give her the love that, or be present for her, or to really open his heart to her. So he buys her love. It's called propitiation. It's buying love. So we see lots of examples of conditional love. I'll love you if you promise not to run off with the baker. I'll love you if you have my dinner on the table at 6 o'clock. That's really not love. So asking myself that question, what is love? What would unconditional love look like?
Yeah.
And my conclusion is love is the highest form of intelligence.
Okay. That's a great place to start from. The highest
It,
form of intelligence.
yeah. So if you look at the miracle of birth, the miracle of life, the miracle, I don't have it here. I was eating some almonds. How does the seeds in here know that it's going to grow into an orange tree and not an apple tree?
Yeah.
Right. So, what sort of intelligence is behind life?
Yeah.
Right?
So now,
And we've been gifted this life
yeah.
as an act of love, perhaps.
Yes. So this is possibly, people might call it God, source, universe, just what is love. This is love. Love is the highest force. Um, and I guess we can tap into that flow or merge with it or want to be part of it and recognize our place as a conduit of love, or we can shun it. Is that what you're seeing there?
Exactly. Um, I don't think we tap into it. I think we are it.
Yeah.
I
But
think we
people
have
cut
a,
themselves off from the flow of what
yeah, exactly.
highest
When
intelligence is.
we cut off our access to it, much of my coaching is having men and women unbuild the wall of China around their heart. We do this to stop ourselves getting hurt again.
Yeah, of course.
It makes perfect sense, but in doing this, impenetrable barrier that we put around our heart stops us giving love and stops us receiving love. So
Yeah.
therefore, we're not able to fulfill this primary purpose in life, is
Mm.
to put love into everything, into our food, our music, our work, our day, our children. So by blocking ourselves from it, and I totally understand why, having been there myself, why
Yeah.
we would resist falling in love again
Yeah.
when it has been so painful.
Yeah. Yes. I totally understand that. I've one thing that's been coming up for my clients in recent times is they overgive and don't feel very comfortable receiving. And through discussion and observation and sort of exploring that, we've realized that obviously when you're cutting yourself off from other people's gifts or from what they might want to help you or ease you with, there's almost like this stopping of the flow of love or stopping the creative vision between people. But at the same time, I've also recognized that I'm very happy to receive gifts when it feels like there's no catch. And I'm really sensitive to a feeling of indebtedness, because if there is a feeling of indebtedness, then I know in my heart there's something there that I don't trust. So I'm really happy to receive unconditionally when I feel completely in trust. But if I suspect that there's something ulterior behind it, or some condition put on me through the receipt of these things, then I run a mile, or that's when my barriers go up. It's like, because it's almost like having a poison chalice. It's almost like taking something into your energy field that is indebted to somebody else. Can we
Yes.
talk
Yeah.
about a bit about the indebtedness? Because I
Yeah,
think additional love is indebtedness, isn't it?
it is. I'm going to demonstrate. I have this pen here. It's not a gold one. It's just a plastic bic. But I'm going to give this to
You and
you.
I raise you a bit.
Right. I see you and raise you. I'm going to give this to you, Louisa. I'd
Okay.
like you to take it. Thank you. Now, if it's conditional love, right? And I want to go to Portugal and I want to see you. And I'd love to be able to stay on that farm where you are,
Yeah.
even if it was in a camper van and we
Really.
had come around and sit there. I think you'll be very, very courteous and welcoming, and we won't have any problems getting food and stuff like that.
No, there's plenty here.
So I'm giving it to you because there's a sort of obligation associated with it.
Okay.
Right? Now, if I give from my heart, the moment I give this to you and I let go of it, that moment, in that moment, it's complete.
Yeah.
It's now yours. It's no longer mine. And you can do whatever you like with it. You can throw it in the bin. You can keep it, never use it because you don't want to wear out the ink. You can stick it under your nose like Adolf or wherever, right? And it's yours.
Yeah.
And it's because it's come with no conditions. I'll never ask you about the pen again,
Yeah.
right? I'll never say, what did you do with that pen I gave you?
That is funny,
Right?
actually. A lot of parents often gift money to their children on the understanding that they spend it in a particular way. It's like,
Yes. Yeah.
oh, you don't trust me? Okay, that's
Uh,
interesting.
I learned this, and this is not certainly not racist, but it was a quality or a modus operandi that I was experiencing. Is when I first went to China,
Mm.
well, over 20 years ago, much more than 20 years ago. I was invited to several banquets. We were a 5-man team now on the project, and we were um, invited to these huge banquets and all the best food. On the first one was, we'd like to invite you, Rick, but under one condition:
Ooh,
you must not talk about work. We want to form a relationship, and we want to know that we can trust you and you can trust us, and we want to work together in the long term. And I
yeah.
thought, wow, that's refreshing.
Mm.
That's refreshing. And a few weeks passed, and we are invited to another one. But we want to continue our relationship building. We want to pay for this. Right?
Okay.
And on the third one, I said, I will. I'm now going to set some conditions. We
Mm.
pay for this. Our team pay for this. Oh no, no, you can't do that. So you see what there was. They were
Mm.
building an obligation into this,
Yeah.
that when they were ready, they could call upon us because we are obligated to them because they spent a lot of money.
Yeah.
Right? And in Australia and England, you get a contract and you agree on the contract, you sign it, it's done. Okay, now let's go down the pub and celebrate with a pint or something. But this was a very insidious, and
Mm.
I really warmed to it. I thought, wow, this is so good, right? But there was a underlying hidden agenda,
Yeah.
and that was this was all conditional, that we're going to play you until you feel obligated, and when we're ready to call our shots, you will feel obliged to um,
Okay.
do what you need to do.
Yeah.
So
We've
that's conditional love, and you're right.
we've
We
sorry to interrupt. We've got this really
Yes,
beautiful little comment from Gaining Wisdom. Hello, Gaining Wisdom. It says, "Yes, I kind of view it like a burnt offering." Isn't that a great way of
yes,
describing it? A burnt offering, giving without expectations of it coming back is
that's
really really nice.
gaining wisdom. That is exactly, no
That
expectations.
perfect.
Yeah, and
Sorry,
that comes from the
feel like
heart.
I feel like I interrupted your flow then, but I just wanted to put
Okay.
that on the screen.
So yes, no, there's no expectations. There's no conditions. So there's no, and that comes directly from the heart. It's
Mm,
an act of pure love. The
yes.
other one is a burnt offering. I love that. I just got a vision of a chicken coming out the oven, frizzled and black. Here's dinner. You better enjoy it. I
Oh
spent a
yeah.
long time cooking it.
Yeah. Well, with that idea of the burnt offering, it immediately took me to Bali, the place where I've seen the most amount of offerings being placed. You get up in the morning and there's beautifully dressed women, or not just women, but people, with these really beautifully crafted little offerings and flowers, a little bit of money, a little bit of incense, and a little prayer, as they
Yeah.
put it down. But I was just imagining it going down with these crumpled up old flowers and like absolute rubbish. The whole idea of offering something is that you're giving without
Yes.
without that expectation of receiving, and it feels good when you do
Yeah.
that, doesn't it?
Well, for me, the highest form of consciousness is to be of selfless service.
Mm,
That means there is nothing in it for you. There's no expectations of anything back. You just give from your heart.
mm,
And we see this with, you know, people, NGOs and people that just go and volunteer, little old ladies in the village cooking and baking cakes for the fete with no expectation. It's not there. It's just for the pure joy and love of it. And selfless service is the highest form of consciousness.
Yeah.
And the opposite of that is the ego. I'm going to get something and I'm going to milk this and get as much as I can out of it.
Yeah. What you're describing there, like the selfless service, I think is possibly the original blueprint of parenting. Because it's what we do. Like if we look at the animal kingdom, I don't think they consciously are choosing when to have. I mean, we don't know what it's like to be a cat necessarily, but life happens, doesn't it? And we become parents at some point. Obviously we've all got our specific circumstances and whatnot, but if you have a look at how animals, they just become parents and they do everything that they need to do, and it doesn't look like there's too much of a contract. They're just doing what is natural to them. And then when we think about parenting, there've been lots of times, I like to be unconditional, and I recognized a long time ago that there's going to be that might be a tall order to expect that from myself, but it's a good place to aim my parenting intention, is that I am like that. And I really like to give to my children, but there have been a few times when I've realized, that they're asking, because kids don't stop asking, do they? They carry on asking for more and more and more. And I realized that there have been times when I've got so exhausted that I've done it, but out of this sense of, oh, look how wonderful I am. I just keep going. And the moment I have that recognition, I realize there's resentment, there's ego really caught up in it, and I have to let go. I mean, unless I'm going to feel good about something and free about it, then I realize that there's something going on, and I need to give myself a talking to. I remember listening to Abraham Hicks. Esther Hicks was talking about, when kids ask for something and whether you help them have it or not, whether you're going to give it to them or not. And one of the things that she said, that a parent might say is, I can give that to you only as quickly as I can feel joyful and happy in the doing so of it. And so my challenge now, that's how I do my parenting. Like when, my eldest asks for, €5 spent on Roblox on this game that he likes, for extra permissions and things, or extra, I don't even know what it is actually, but when he asks for something, my intention is to gift it to him. But every now and again, there might be something that just doesn't feel right. And so I actually say to him, when I can feel good about giving it, then it's going to flow. And our children actually don't ask for much, because I think they know that when they do need something, we'll get ourselves in the right frame of mind. But when you grow up experiencing the difference of experiencing the resentment, there's an uncomfortable feeling. I think that's why I've got such a sensitivity to having things put on me and also don't want to put them onto the next generation. Do you think it's possible we can get back to that original blueprint of love?
I do. I think it's inherent and it's innate in all of us. Yeah. And let me acknowledge your parenting style, because that is exactly what unconditional love is about.
Oh, thank you.
It was, I think it was Mother Teresa said, it's not the magnitude of the deed that you do, it's how much love you put in it. Right, and that makes so much sense. And if you can't put love in it, and my dad would say, if a job's worth doing, son, do it well. Yeah. Right. So all of those equate to the same thing. Where are you doing or giving this from? Is it in a place of love, or is it out of obligation or resentment, or trying to benefit yourself from it? So to be able to distance yourself slightly and say, just let me get in a good place about this. And this is my stuff. I'm dealing with it. I just want to clean that up so that I can gift this to you.
Wow.
That's well done.
We've got another comment from Gaining Wisdom. She's saying, hi, Louisa Munson and Rick Pursell. Lovely chats you all have. I'm guessing that you're from America.
Mississippi.
I'd love to know who you are. Obviously, the wonderful thing about YouTube is that we can have our alter egos and nobody needs to know who we are. But if you want, you could send us a little private chat and let us know what you'd like us to talk about another time, because we're really happy to. We enjoy these chats. Actually, that's why we do them, because it's just for us, really, isn't it? And then if anyone else wants to enjoy it, they can do. She's from Louisiana.
Yeah, I thought so. I've been to Louisiana many times, gaining wisdom, many times.
Wow.
I know that area well. New Orleans, the French
Wow.
Quarter, Y'all, and Mississippi as well. So
And
welcome.
we've got another comment from Gaining Wisdom. She says, I see nature showing me now. Sorry, I said she. I don't actually know that you are a woman, so forgive me. I see nature showing me now where I can and have missed the mark on responsibility to my children. I think it's completely forgivable, isn't it?
Absolutely.
One thing that I've learnt with my children is, I do screw up, actually, when I do take the time to speak to them about it, even when they're quite young, they're always really quite in shock, because they say, "But Mum, you don't need to apologize. There's nothing to forgive." They really are. They just. I think children have this natural ability to love their parents more than their parents realize.
Yes.
I think children, because you can treat children quite poorly and they will still want to make, like Carl, for instance, my husband, he always wanted to marry his mum, to make her life right, because she had a whole lineup of horrible, just very selfish men. And I think he wanted to love his mum more, and I think kids do want to do that for their parents. They want to help them.
Yes.
What do you think?
Well, I think the bottom line is that every one of us is doing the best we can with what we have, what we have at our disposal. If you had a horrific childhood with little or no bonding, little or no guidance, little or no love, little of no role modeling, then that's the only thing you can fall back. That's the programming that you've learned between 0 and 7 on how do we deal with conflict. And we witness what's going on. We witness it energetically and then physically and emotionally. And if that's the only foundation that we have to go on, what chance do we have of having a beautiful, loving relationship without clearing away all that debris? And this is our role, is to, one, recognize every one of us at any time is doing the best we can with what we have. So there is no forgiving that, because at the time we were doing the best, 10 seconds later, 10 minutes, 10 years later, we might say, I wouldn't make that choice again.
Yeah.
But it was right at the time. It's all I had to go by, right? So the act of, do you know that to forgive yourself is a profound act of love? A profound act of love. And if I can just carry on from there, I've mentioned it before, the 6 heart virtues. This is the values that emanate from the heart. The first one is gratitude and appreciation. When we're really grateful for what we've got, doesn't matter what it is, and we can be really appreciative of the life we have, the body we have, the experiences we have. And then comes compassion. If we can show ourselves compassion and compassion for other people, right? Understanding, if we can understand ourselves and other people, if we can forgive ourselves and other people, if we can be humble towards ourselves and other people and the earth and the galaxy, and if we can express bravery and courage towards ourselves and to other people, every one of those is an act of love. There's the practical tools. Love is such an esoteric, nebulous thing, and we've seen so few role models of people on this planet that are expressing unconditional love. So few to go by. But what we can do is fall back onto our own hearts and adopt these behaviors coming from the heart and just be very grateful, right? And practice them on ourselves first. Oh, I need a little bit more humility here. I could be a bit more understanding about myself, all right? Or I need to forgive myself for what I did back then.
Yeah.
And I need to be brave and courageous here. I need to step out of my comfort zone, right? And all of these have to do with love, all of them. So if we want to go into a loving relationship, we've got to master these with ourselves. We've really got to be appreciative and understanding ourselves. Who are we? Where are we? This is where consciousness and awareness comes in.
Yeah.
So there's the practical steps. As we perform these heart virtues on ourselves first and then on others, we are giving self-love and we are giving away love to others, giving and receiving love. And it sounds so simple, but it is profoundly, profoundly powerful. And this has been my probably 15 years I've been practicing. And this was the Heart Mastery series of retreats that we ran over 10 years here. So I know it works. I've seen it work on people. I've seen it work on myself. And I've used it as a coaching tool. And it's the simplicity of it is it's very easy to poo-hoo it out. I know all those words, they're meaningless, or that couldn't be it. It's got to be something more profound. I need to go out and stand in a thunderstorm and get a bolt of lightning to wake me up. No, you don't. It's very simple and it comes from the heart. So that's the foundation of love for me.
Wow. I really like your heart mastery. Your super six, I guess, are really, really good. And to recap that, it's gratitude, compassion, understanding,
Forgiveness.
humility, and bravery. It's interesting
Yes.
as well because a while about 15 minutes ago in the conversation, I think you mentioned about Hollywood, like the Hollywood love. And if we don't learn what love is through our parents, where else do we learn about the models of love or behavior? And obviously Hollywood or TV, which is called programming for a reason, but we
Yes.
learn about that through the films we watch and the stuff we listen to, and also through schooling, and through the sort of like culture that we're growing up in. But if you were to look at Hollywood and think about the themes of the films, they're always a hero's journey. It's usually about bravery and not much about anything else. You see, like, bravery is the sort of the thing that sort of looks more physical, about courage and, something that you feel in your body. And it's about overcoming the odds. And it always makes it look like this big hero's journey that, like you say, has to look like a thunderbolt coming at your head, when it really could be something simple. And I guess that's why we don't see the simple things on TV necessarily.
Yes, they don't sell.
Yeah, no, they don't. Do they? One thing that struck me about, like I think it's really hang on, I'm just sort of unraveling what I'm about to say to try and bring it to the most easy way to explain it. I don't really tell my children off very much when they're very young, because I think it's kind of unfair to put on them my expectations before they have the capacity to understand it. So my responsiveness towards speaking to my children is directly in proportion to their level of understanding that I think they can get to. So for a while, our babies get off scot-free. And then gradually, as you can see that they're starting to understand what's going on around them, we start to build in these little, no, maybe not. And, we start guiding them a little bit. But I think you can't know how to raise children until you know how to raise children, or you can't know how to love until you know how to love, until it kind of dawns on you. And so, we do make mistakes all the time because we don't know what we don't know. And I think the change always comes when we realize, like maybe 10 years later or 30 years later, oh my goodness, I can't believe I did that. I've probably set up this series of conditions. And I think the only responsibility we have is when we do know possibly what mistakes or things that we've done, is that we seek to put it right in ourselves first. So we forgive ourselves, which is what you were talking about, actually, Rick. But not only do we forgive ourselves, and I don't think it's a prerequisite, but if you want to clear it with people and say, back then this happened, and I'm sorry about it, you can do, but you don't have to. I think the only person you have to make it right with actually is yourself.
Yes,
Um,
yes.
So that was a bit of a long, sort of baggy explanation.
It was a lovely explanation. And you're right. We don't let children harm themselves or harm others. I think that has to be a prerequisite.
Yeah.
But
Thankfully, I've not had to see that too
much. We innately, I think we are good at heart. You've raised kids, I've raised kids. I didn't see any evil in them when they were wee babes in my arm. I think they have, these are learnt, conditioned reactions to the environment in which they've been brought up or exposed. And it could, if you're giving kids a little Game Boy and they're fighting the bad dudes, then that becomes the norm, that you fight as hard as possible to win over. And so in some countries, which will remain nameless, young teenagers will go into a classroom and blow away 8 to 10 kids and teachers. This is when we're brought up on a stable diet of violence, then that's going to beget more violence. So, and again, it just comes down to ourselves. We must become more conscious and aware, because the net end result of that consciousness is wise, intelligent behaviors. And that's all. The only reason we should be becoming more conscious is not to escapism, to go and sit on a big white cloud out there, or to be in the five-dimensional, multi-dimensional space 24 hours a day. I believe the end result of becoming more conscious is our behaviors will become innately wise, and they will become innately intelligent. And if you look at the state of our planet now and our human family, we don't have a lot of wisdom in the choices and behaviors. We don't have a lot of intelligence in our behaviors. There are some amazing things happening, and I don't want to portray this as doom and gloom. We've made extraordinary advances in medical science, in technology. All of those things have come from an innate intelligence in that area. Right? So if we want to become better parents, if we want to be conscious parents, then we've got to have that foundation of consciousness ourselves, right? And conscious businessmen and conscious marketers and conscious whatever, policemen.
Yeah.
And the way to determine how conscious am I is by just questioning how intelligent was that behavior. And I can tell you, I've made some really unwise, really stupid, unintelligent choices in my life that have had profound effects on me and other people. I don't do them anymore. Right?
Yeah.
I had to experience them to understand what I don't want. I don't want to behave this way. I don't want people to be harmed as a result of my unconsciousness. So it all comes back down to ourselves. And if we can love ourselves, keep topping ourselves up so our cup's overflowing, then we've got more to give away. And that's as simple as that. And then make sure that the teapot is always topping up us, so that we can overflow our cup to other people. In our modern society, it's very easy to give from the heart and leave yourself depleted. And
I'm imagining
nothing left.
I'm imagining like one of those posh chocolate fountains, where it kind of cascades down at a wedding or something. Like, and I'm in this cascade of like love, and it's pouring out, or a bit like a sunshine, that as you are it radiates out from you.
Yes.
Yeah, I love that. So a lot of what we've been talking about, I guess the title, What is Love? in my teens or 20s, I'd be thinking romantic, and now in my 40s, I'm thinking, oh, family and what's good for the world. But can we touch on love between partners, and what does that look like? Because I think a lot of us are programmed with this love will conquer all kind of thing, and but really from a sort of Hollywood perspective, and we see that like the model of finding true love somehow seems to be dramatic, and you have to do all these like crazy steps to get this love. It always seems to be a dramatic story somehow, never a really natural and easy one. So what do you think's gone on with the sort of programming for partner love, the love between
Well,
loving people?
I think once again we come back to, is there understanding between the two people? We don't have to agree with everything, but we can agree to disagree. We can understand and respect and honor the other person's point of view. So that's understanding. Is there gratitude? In most relationships, they tend to degrade into, you start when we're in that romantic honeymoon period, we put our partner on a pedestal and they can't do anything wrong. Right?
Yeah.
And that's a hell of a place to be.
You
have to try and live up to that. And of course, it's almost impossible. So, and it's not real, because we have an ego. There is a yin yang to us. And if you're only looking at the white side and just blocking out that little black dot, you're not being very real. So as we progress through that period of time, we start noticing that, really annoys me. He picks his nose all the time. Or she leaves a bloody underwear on the, why didn't she put it in the dirty clothes basket? We find something to niggle.
No offense.
We find something to niggle at, and this is the work of the ego.
As I said that, someone just gave us a like. As I said, you sound like a woman. Someone just loved that. Sorry, go on.
I am part woman. You should know that. I'm half woman and half man. So the ego uses this to judge. One of the things about fear is that if I can judge somebody and make myself superior, I would never do that, right? Or separate from them, right? Now I can harm them. So the harm that I'm going to be is I'm going to be judgmental, and I'm going to nag you until you do what I told you to do, or whatever. So Brené Brown, in one of her lovely TED Talks, talks about, when the supervisor gives you an assessment and you've got 57 good things and one not so good, room for improvement, where does all your attention go?
Yeah.
So this is what happens in relationships. Instead of all the magnificent other aspects of our partner, we focus on a handful of things that we consider negative, and now that becomes the primary focus of attention. And that's not demonstrating understanding or love or compassion or real appreciation, and the humility to not put yourself as superior because I always put my clothes away, or I never pick my nose, I'm better than you. None of that. So and these 6 heart virtues, let me just say, they don't operate individually. Often it takes bravery and courage to forgive somebody, to understand them and then forgive them. There's 3 of those elements all wrapped into one. So where we're going with this is that the relationship degrades because where our focus goes is more on the outpoints rather than on what the beautiful gifts that partner gives to us.
Yeah.
And again, the remedy for that is to take ownership for this judgment, appreciate and understand where it comes from, and change that to, okay, today I'm just going to bombard my beautiful wife with all the things I love about her and appreciate and what she does. And then before you know it, you're starting to get that back,
Yeah.
right? And the flow comes between you and the love is opened up again.
Yeah.
So,
If I looked a little bit distracted then, it's because as you were sharing that, I realized I've got some work to do with my husband, and that I need to forgive him for all the things I'm putting on him, which probably aren't his anyway. But I realized, as you said, that I had this dawning realization that I've been holding something over him for a while, and that's no good. It's not loving, is it? It's not a loving behavior.
well, let's not call it loving behavior, but is it wise?
It's not wise. Definitely not
And
wise.
is it intelligent?
Definitely not. I mean, one as you were talking about the sort of yin yang and like the beautiful white space, and the little black spot, or it could be reversed, because again, we've been programmed to say, like, oh, the white light, we're all white hats or whatever, and black hats bad, But the uh, you're right. When you focus on the problem, the black gets bigger and bigger. But if you actually just appreciate all the great things, then the energy is sufficiently raised that not only you, but the person you're relating to are sort of bathed in that sort of flow of wisdom. Like it's the highest intelligence that you were talking about earlier. When you're connected to the flow of it, then the possibilities are endless. The
Mm,
possibility for the relationship working out, the possibility for that black spot just kind of realizing that it's actually not that important anyway, and the possibilities are endless. But when you focus on that black point, it's like the possibilities shut, or actually no, that's not true. The possibility for shitness gets bigger exponentially.
yes. Yeah.
It just grows.
Yeah. And that's the classic where attention goes, energy flows.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
if we put our attention on all of the out points, that's exactly where the energy is going to go.
yeah,
And the other person feels it at some level. They may not
yeah,
be able to enunciate it. Children certainly feel it. The
definitely do.
moment the moment we're a bit pissed off and we withdraw our love, they feel that. They
Yeah,
really do.
yeah,
And then they make a pledge. I'm going to be a good boy or good girl because I don't want mum to withdraw her love or dad to withdraw their love. So whatever they say goes, right? I'm
definitely.
just going to work my little butt off to be the best
To
good
make it
little
right.
child I can be.
Yeah.
And that's negated all of the curiosity and experimentation and adventure because we're living vicariously through somebody else's needs, not our own.
I totally agree with that. I kind of broke my heart a little bit when I saw my eldest doing that to me, when he was just trying to make the world right for me one day because I wasn't the best mom I could be. And when I saw that, I immediately kind of put down everything I was doing, sat down with him and just hugged him and said, you don't need to do that.
Yeah.
My happiness is not your job.
Yeah.
Your
Yeah.
happiness is your job. Um,
Yes.
because when you said that, immediately, I just remembered that's how I felt growing up
Mm.
pretty much all the time. And you don't get rewarded for that either, do you? When you're
No.
making someone else feel better, because it kind of makes them kind of angry, don't they? Nobody needs to have their happiness facilitated necessarily. It has to come from us. And it's
Yeah.
irritating when a little child's trying to do it, because it highlights our failures somehow, doesn't it? Or highlights where we're going wrong.
Yes. Well, I think children sense that it's coming from, you know, come on, darling, get your recorder out and play for Auntie Joan. No, Mum, I don't want to. You will play for Auntie Joan. She's come all
Yeah.
this way,
Yeah.
right? I want you to play. If it's not coming from their heart, they're going to mess up most of the notes, probably, unless they're very proficient. And it's done because dad or mum who made that suggestion want to show off to Auntie Joan how good
Yeah.
my kid is.
Yeah.
It's
And
coming
probably
it's
Joan doesn't
coming
have
from the wrong place.
a Yeah, and like, hands up, who here actually thinks recorders sound beautiful anyway? I'm seeing an abs. Oh, I can't help but think they're like from the devil, like somebody sort of invented them to frustrate people everywhere.
Well, I up until last week, I would have said no, but I just happened to come across a short video clip, and the guy was playing it not like that, but like that
Like a
on the
five.
side, blowing across there, but playing there. And it was almost like a South American panpipes, you blow across them. The sound was just, mesmerizing. So that's why I put my hand up.
Okay. Well, I do
But I
remember.
would have done anyway, just to stir you up.
Well, the funny thing is, when we moved to Portugal, we went through all of our inventory and decided what we were going to store, what we were going to chuck or give away, repurpose, and what we were going to keep. And the very first thing that went onto the pile were these 2 recorders that I bought the kids, because actually I really like instruments and music and things. And Carl just would get really upset, but like come up to Christmas, me and Digby would sit down and we'd be learning Christmas carols together, and so they were the first things to be gifted out to somebody else. So maybe I'll get some, and we'll play from the side.
Indeed.
So we've got about 5 minutes left.
Yes.
Oh
yes.
no, you don't have much time today, do you? Did you?
No, about 5 minutes. That's on the hour, isn't it? Yeah.
Okay. This has been quite a magnificent talk because we've gone all the way around love. But is there a part of it that we haven't come to? What's the crescendo of this this chat today?
So you want to know the cherry on top of the cake?
Yeah, if there is one.
Could you deposit a few $1,000s in my Swiss numbered bank account, and I'll gladly share it with you? No. Okay. How about this for cherry? Love is the highest force in the universe, the multiverse.
Mm-hmm.
It is the highest force. Any act of love is going to have a profound effect. And I'm always quoting Gandhi because Gandhi influenced 140 million Indians, and against a formidable force of British empirism. And he did it non-violently as a pure act of love. And how powerful is that? How powerful is that? So, and we have this within us. We need to tap into this. And the portal is through the heart. It's where we spend an inordinate amount of time looking outside for that which will bring us happiness, that which will bring us love, that which will bring us some satisfaction. And when the answer lies right under our nose, this fragment of the whole that is embedded in this physical form contains everything we're looking for, and particularly love. So if we know it's there, if we can tap into this by exploring it inwardly for ourselves and then demonstrating it and practicing it on ourselves, we very quickly will get to a point where I love this feeling. I'm over brimming with love. I want to share this with someone, right? And make it as unconditional as possible.
Yeah.
And now you've tapped into the highest force in the multiverse. How's that for cherry?
That's brilliant. That's a lovely cherry. And just as we're coming to the end, we've got a comment from Beverly Maidment, who's shared with us, recorders are the hardest thing to get a beautiful noise from. I've come in at the end, must catch it later. Love is the greatest equalizer. I think that's lovely.
It is.
So I think let's draw this to a close. Thank you to everybody that's listened today. We've had quite a few comments from people, which was really, really wonderful. We've had comments from Sylv, from Gaining Wisdom in Louisiana, and now Beverly Maiden. And in fact, Beverly's just saying one other thing. Someone I know asked to be number one in someone's life. I replied that she needs to look after herself.
Very wise, Beverly. Very wise. Thank you for sharing your wisdom. Yes,
absolutely. So I'm going to say that to you too, Rick. Thank you so much for giving from the heart as ever. Once again, thank you so much for joining us.
And thank you for your absolutely loving authenticity. To be authentic is an act of love towards ourselves and towards others. So thank you. Well, look forward to next week.
Yes, absolutely. And I should be a changed woman because I am going to actually get my husband out of bed and absolutely you know, share with him where I think I've held back in our relationship, you know, and so let's see how I am next week.
Hopefully not battered and bruised. No,
No,
you
I
won't
hope,
be.
I'm going to look really, really radiant. But anyway,
I'm sure you will. You already are. So
not bad for getting stupid
not bad.
to meet you. But anyway, lots of love to you, to everybody in the world, everyone that's listened, everyone that we encounter, and until we see each other again. Have a great week.
Big love from Bali to all of you. Ciao.
Ciao, ciao.